first of all, just to speak about what is happening today, what is happening around us, we need a bit of chizuk, and I don't know exactly what the Rabbi would say during these days, but I do know the style of what the Rabbi would say. So there are a lot of midrashim, a lot of very interesting tales that are said out in the public and that people speak about. Very interesting. A lot of them are very even moving. There's a very famous Zohar that people are quoting today, and the Zohar speaks about the times when Yishmael and Edom will fight. Yishmael will cause many wars to happen, and by the way, there's a NACHLAOT who will win. If it will be that's actually about Tiras, about Yishmael in general, about Paras, Iran, who will win, but most of the commentators say that Edom will win. And all of this is to, the Zohar says, this is to prevent Am Yisrael from the land, from Eretz Yisrael. And how do they have a right to do such a thing? Which is interesting, because when you read about the all the books that the leaders of the Zionist movement wrote back early in the days, we talk about the early 1900s, the early years, none of them wrote that there might be a conflict between us and the Palestinian nation, or there might become a Palestinian entity, or there might be such a claim that there should be a second state. There was always problems with the Arabs, but they never saw it as a problem with Mamish becoming a state. So yes, the Gaza Strip, who used to run it, who used to rule it? The Egyptians. The West Bank, the Jordanians. So where does their right come from? The Zohar says this is from the bris milah. This is from the bris that Yishmael did. So although he didn't do a proper bris like we do at the 8th day, but that itself, that he did such a bris, gets him a right over the land for several years, and mainly, the Zohar says, mainly while the land was deserted and empty. And that's how it was. Since the time of the destruction of the Second Temple, slowly but surely the land, Eretz Yisrael, became very deserted. And we read about, even very recently, not even talking about the times of the Bet Yosef in Tzfat, or the times of the Arizal in Tzfat, the times of Rav Moshe Cordovero from Tzfat, which then there were only very few cities that were running, basically, they were functioning. But even 100 years ago, or 80 years ago, 100 years ago, there was famine in the land. And how do I know that? Because my grandfather's family, from my mother's side, they made Aliyah to Eretz Yisrael, and then they left to Egypt after several years because there was no food here, and it was very hard. And we read about it. This is all that, if you take a look in NACHLAOT, beautiful to see. There's a whole place that it's called, forgot the name. It's a certain kollel. It's like an organization that they supported the Jews that lived outside of the walls, and they supported, all of it was based on money starting from Moshe Montefiore, famously donating, but after him, many years later, Jewish communities in the diaspora made sure that the Jewish community here could actually live, because we didn't have the plenty that we have today. And that's mainly the time that the Muslims rule the land. But there's definitely no doubt about another thing, and this is something that how to take all of these midrashim into context is two things, that the Rebbe always put an emphasis on positivity, no matter what. So even if things seem bad, we don't read the quotations from the midrashim that try and give us a bad feeling, right? There are midrashim that say that the Yishmaelites, they will rule the country, and we will suffer very much under their hands. So this, we were all Yotzi. Past 70 years, they ruled enough the land, and we suffered a lot, and that's it. So the Rebbe would put a big emphasis on the positivity side of things. And not only that, But you know, it's unbelievable to see, and someone sent me a video last night from Kiryat Gat. Kiryat Gat is the city where that soldier that was freed, that's where she lives, that's where her family lives. I learned in yeshiva in the city, and I know there's the frum areas, the Hasidim, and then there's the secular areas, traditional people, but they are secular. There's not much of an interaction on a regular basis. Unbelievable to see the simcha, the dancing of those Hasidim. It's unbelievable to see. And this is without the Rebbe commanding them, the Admor commanding them, go out and dance in the streets. This is a feeling that all of Am Yisrael have, and you walk around, you can go to Chabad of Katamon, you'll see over there the tremendous chesed that everyone does and takes part. We also try to do this over here. Yesterday I went to an army base with Rabbi Goldberg of Sayeret Charuv. Sayeret Charuv is one of the high top units in the IDF, and we did for them a barbecue. We gave them pairs of tzitzis, we put on tefillin, and one soldier told me, he said he was in Chabad of Mexico when it all began. So I told him, well, okay, so tell me more. So he says he was on a honeymoon with his wife in Mexico, and as he heard what happened, he left everything, came back to Israel, straight into the army. So you know, you see such a thing, you hear such a thing. This is unbelievable.
They had 150% of the recruitment rate.
Right. So, Putin is dreaming of getting enough recruits, and you can see here on Israel. Here we, unbelievable. Chapter 29. Again, we are focusing on positivity. So, chapter 26 was the foundation of why Ivdu es Hashem b'simcha. What is the source to Ivdu es Hashem b'simcha? And also trying to help us with physical struggles and pain in life. How not to become depressed if chas v'shalom something is not going well. And psychologists say this all the time. Yes, if someone chas v'shalom, if someone discovers that he's sick in a certain way, so there are two ways to deal with it. Or you can try and make the most out of this challenging time, or you can make it even more miserable, and it can become very, very miserable. So the Alter Rebbe teaches us a true way, not only based on this logic that you're all going to be miserable, or you can try to be happy, but on the Torah's view of things, that everything is truly good. Trach gut wird sein gut, right? And then we went from there to chapter 27, speaking about certain challenges that we might have baruchnia, spirituality, right? Spirituality-wise, on a spiritual level, not every time everything is perfect, and that might cause us to be upset. And there the Alter Rebbe tells us, first of all, you should be happy because you're fulfilling a mitzvah of strengthening yourself in Torah and chasing away foreign thoughts. And not only that, the Alter Rebbe says that we should accept the fact that things like that can happen. We are humans after all. Accepting ourselves. Chapter 28 goes to speak about a person that's doing a mitzvah. He's in the middle of doing a mitzvah. Any type of a mitzvah, and then something bad interrupts him. So the Alter Rebbe says, not only you shouldn't be sad, but you should be happy. It means you're doing something good. When you do something good, the other Yetzer Hara, which is another person, it's not you. Other Yetzer Hara, it bothers him, and that's why he tries to interrupt, and he tries to challenge you in that way. But it's not a reason to be upset. On the contrary, you're doing so well that it bothers the Yetzer Hara. So that is a summary of what we basically learned about positivity.
The Yetzer Hara wants us to be depressed.
He wants us to be depressed. Exactly. It's more important for the Yetzer Hara for us to be depressed, upset, and sad than to do an Aveira. Because that is the key, right? You want the key that this person will be yours. And if we do b'simcha, that's much better. That's the key to success in Yiddishkeit. So here we go. We're gonna now see chapter 29, and chapter 29 it's called Shavira. Shavira, and this is an interesting chapter where the Alter Rebbe does give us a bit of musar. It's interesting because even in Tanya we can find some musar. It's a musar that in a certain way reveals who we truly are, and that's why it's a good musar, because it's a musar that leaves a positive side of things. Perhaps this is also the place to speak generally about the difference between Musar and Chassidus, you know. And he wrote Chayvas Halavavos, which, by the way, this is a book that is embraced by Chassidus, and many other books that came, Sharei Teshuvah, that was by Rabbi Levi, and many other Musar books that were written by the starting for the Rishonim, and then until what started off as known as Tnuat HaMusar, the Musar movement by Rabbi Yisrael Salanter, and that was, and certain yeshivas actually embraced it, learning 15 minutes every single day of Musar, which is to try and fix our ways in Avodas Hashem. What is the difference between Musar and Chassidus? So Musar basically tries to tell us where we can improve in Sur Meirah, staying away from bad, to put the bad things that we have around us, to put those in scary letters, in real letters. Chassidus basically more puts an emphasis on Aseh Tov, on trying to do good. Of course, we're not saying that that the person can still stick with bad, but at least our focus is on the good side, to see how the good is appealing, etc. So it makes it more easy for our journey. And that's basically, of course, in depth. There are more differences. We're not going to too much go into that. Here we see the Alter Rebbe will speak to us about a different type of musar, and this is connected to the heaviness. It's connected also to the parsha. And I'll share with you a famous midrash that we have about Avraham Avinu. Avraham Avinu basically, Vayita Eishel Beve'er Shava, Vayikra Sham B'Shem Hashem Kel Olam. And this is the end of our parsha, Parshas Vayera. Avraham Avinu, in the middle of the desert of Beersheba, opens a tent, and he provides people with water, fruit, and delicious food as well. And when they go on their way, before they leave, Avraham Avinu says, Berchu lemi she'amar v'haya ha'olam. Bless the one that created the world. Then it was a big chidush. Avraham Avinu was the first one to introduce monotheism into the world, believing in one God, in a creator. And many people did not accept it. No, I don't believe in it. I don't believe in it. So Avraham Avinu said, okay, no worries. Here is your bill. And you ate steak, good wine, dessert. Okay, you've got to pay. I don't know what the currency was then, but it came out to a big enough amount that the person was shocked. Oh, why so much, so expensive? Who would give you food in the middle of the desert? Right? We know that if you are a bottle of Coke, if you are on an island, it will cost you triple. If you're in an airplane, it will cost you triple. So he told him, you can bench Hashem, give him a bracha, like I asked before, and you don't need to pay in that case. So probably 99% of those people said, you know what, I will bench. Then there was 1% that said, no chance. I don't know, but perhaps. Yes, but
You tried that in restaurant?
I always try it, but they never. Yeah.
So this was for Monday or for both?
For elevating it. This is a higher level than both. There is Shalom Rabbi Goldberg.
Shalom, shalom. שעכשיו אתה רוצה להפריע.
עכשיו זה טוב.
Sorry, maybe I should just... בסדר גמור. Shalom everybody. Yesher Koach. Good morning. This is very, very exciting for Rabbi Diamond and myself that we're able to restart and re-energize the Limud HaTorah. It's important for us to remember what the Torah says, that Torah magna u'matzla. Torah saves us. So of course we try to take care of saving Am Yisrael and saving Eretz Yisrael on different levels. We have our soldiers, first and foremost, that are on the front line and behind the scenes, and Marachat HaBitachon is doing their job. And sometimes you have the learning Torah, which is the energy. You have, for example, a car or any a home. Let's say you have a home, everything in different floors, and everything is working fine. But you have the boiler room that gives the energy and the heat and the ruach, or a car that has the engine. That's you don't see it. It's hidden. You have the wheels and the steering wheel and all the important things. But the Torah is the magna u'matzla. Torah is what saves us, and that's what gives us the koach and gives the koach to our soldiers. So therefore, thank you very much for making it possible for us to come back and to learn personally, because it's very important to me that we learn personally, and it's different. There's an advantage of the Zoom, and Be'ezrat Hashem, this is going to be thanks to Mordechai and Raya very soon on our YouTube channel. But there's something special about learning in person, and Be'ezrat Hashem, tonight we're going to have our shir in Chassidus in person, and tomorrow night, as much as possible. And so we're trying to balance everything. Thank you for being partners with Chabad of Rechavia. B'hatzlacha.
Shakwa, thank you. So let's get back to the story of Avraham Avinu, right? So Avraham Avinu, he was there, and basically, to make it simple in 2 words in Hebrew, they call it kfiyah datit. That's what they call it over here. Avraham Avinu forced those people to bench. First of all, it's not nice. It's unethical. Why are you forcing a person? Maybe he doesn't believe in it. Second of all, what do you gain out of it? 2 minutes later, he says, I met this guy, he's a Meshuggah, he's in the middle of the desert, he's giving free food to whoever says a blessing. Chas v'shalom. What does, long term, what does Avram gain? So, the answer is within this chapter 29. Let's start here with the first paragraph. This is chapter 29. Does everyone have copies? We've got here a few more if anyone needs. That's 27. That's chapter 27. So here, Mordechai, this is for you. There's a 29 there. Okay, good. Okay, Chaim Leib, there's a chapter here, chapter 29 for you. Oh, you've got perfect. Okay. So, Hanoch, would you like to read for us the first paragraph here on chapter 29?
So there is yet an additional aspect that the Benoni must contend with, namely that occasionally, and even frequently, they experience a dullness of the heart, which becomes like a stone, and the person is unable, try as he might, to open his heart to the service of the heart, namely prayer. Also at times he is unable to wage war against the evil impulse, so as to sanctify himself in the things that are permissible, because of the heaviness that is in his heart.
Thank you. So this is a problem that it doesn't have to do directly with the whole idea of simcha, of happiness, but this is a problem that has to do with our battle against the Yetzer Hara. And the way the Alter Rebbe describes it is the dullness of the heart. A person feels heavy, and he mainly heavy-hearted. You know, sometimes you're easily inspired, but many times people aren't easily inspired. And the Alter Rebbe here tries to attend to the inspiration that we need in order to properly serve Hashem. Right, so it's very simple also to the army. When we went actually yesterday to the army base, the commander told us that he sees the soldiers are relaxed. And it was a very good sign for him, because you don't want someone too tense. Because if a person's too tense, so he can't really use his brain in order to function properly. So, and that's the same idea also as when someone's too heavy. When someone's too heavy, he's not excited, he's not young, he's not fresh, he's not willing to go. In that case, then it's going to be hard to battle against the Yetzer Hara. So how do we cause a person to be positively inspired, or to make a certain move that the person, okay, no, it's a new month. How do we really do it? This is the question that the Alter Rebbe has over here, and the answer is going to be based on the Zohar. And yes, it's not a pleasant answer, basically.
So, Rabbi?
Yeah.
So someone who would side with Hamas and the Palestinians, would you say that's dullness of the heart?
That could be one reason. That could be one reason. Yeah. That I think it's not a good enough of a reason, because a person that has dullness of the heart means he's not, he's not willing, let's say, to go. He's not going to say, okay, go conquer all of Gaza. Sometimes it's. I think that has to do with other reasons, but some of them are more revealed. Some of them have to do with the personality of the person. But definitely, in order to beat Hamas, you can't have dullness of the heart, and you have to be inspired, you have to be young, you have to be fresh, you have to be willing for a change. And this is what we're going to try and do. In this case, Yaakov, please read for us. This is the second paragraph.
In this case, the advice given to the Holy Zohar is, as the president of the Heavenly Academy said in the Gan Eden, a wooden beam that will not catch fire should be splintered. A body into which the light of the soul does not penetrate should be crushed.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's continue. What is the Zohar meaning here? The Zohar basically is saying very strong words. The Zohar is bringing an example, right? If you have wood that is too big, too thick, you're not going to be able to light it. So what do you have to do? You have to make sure to cut it into small pieces, and then you can light it. In that same way, if the soul is not inspired, or if the body is not inspired, if the body is not inspired, you have to crush the body. What does that mean? Please continue for us the next paragraph as well.
The reference to the light of the soul is as the light of the soul and of the intellect does not illuminate to such an extent as to prevail over the coarseness of the body. For although he understands and contemplates in his mind on the greatness of God, this is not apprehended and implanted in his mind to a degree that would enable him to prevail over the coarseness of the heart, because of the nature of this coarseness and crassness.
Yefé. So here, these are a few more letters that the Alter Rebbe gives to explain to us the situation, which means a person has a neshama, and so to speak, there's nothing wrong with this neshama. Truly, there's nothing wrong with the neshama. But even if the person is using the neshama, which means he thinks about his soul, it does not bring a change in behavior. He's not able to overcome the heaviness of the body. Yes, the body comes with a certain habits, with a certain nature. And in that case, it's even harder to try and change a habit. If a person is used to some routine for a long time, then it's hard to change his routine. In that same way, materialism is our second nature. It's our routine. And to cause a person to be inspired and to be disconnected from materialism, it can be very challenging and very hard. So what could a person, and even he's misbein and he's thinking about the existence of Hashem and about the things that Hashem really wants from him, but nevertheless, for some reason, it's not catching. There's no fire that's catching.
So what is this? Could you talk more about the splintering?
So when it comes to the wood, splintering is very clear, right? When you want to make a bonfire, you've got to make sure that you find those small pieces of wood and you light them first, and then that lights the rest of the wood.
Okay. So that does not apply to us.
Okay, so the Alter Rebbe is going to give us certain methods that a person can so-called crush his body. And in that way, if it's done in the right way, of course, and here the Alter Rebbe is going to be very precise about how to use this powerful tool, this causes us to wake up. You know, sometimes, and this is very unfortunate, I'm not comparing it exactly to what the Alter Rebbe is saying, but yes, as Klal Yisrael as well, sometimes for us to wake up and to change our attitude at certain things, even on the level of understanding the enemy that's in front of us, you have to get a certain makah. Otherwise, you're not going to change what you think about him, right? It's like all the signs. It's so interesting to see this about in history, the way people. It's not only in history. It's ourselves self-convincing. When we convince ourselves that everything is okay. So if even someone will come and bring you a sign saying that. So for example, with the Suez Canal, we have a person that comes here and he's the one that cleans the shul. And he used to serve in the IDF before the 73, before the Yom Kippur War. And he was there on the Suez Canal, and he saw that the Egyptians placed these, what's called, I don't know the word, rafsodot in Hebrew they say, which is basically, I would say, a certain slide that enables vehicles and things like that, that they, if they need, they would be able to quickly cross the canal. And he reported to his commanders about this. He said, what happens if the Egyptian soldiers are going to cross the canal? What are we going to do? He was 13 soldiers in his unit there. And they told him, don't worry, you have the Rechavia, you've got the Air Force behind you, you've got tanks behind you, don't worry. And sometimes by the answer you understand very well that there's no real answer. And this is also something that happened in the attack in the south. People were telling for years that the balloons, or that people are coming close to the fence. It was the tractor was basically going every single day, all the way up to the fence and back, just to cause us to feel that
it was a diversion.
A diversion, right? So sometimes this is what the Alter Rebbe is telling us also over here. Sometimes we can also have this feeling, and sometimes nothing will wake up the body besides if the body gets a certain makah. A beating, unfortunately. So this is the splintered that the Alter Rebbe is referring to over here. But again, this is a powerful tool. We can't use it all the time. The Alter Rebbe will tell us when to use it, how to use it, etc. Let's see the techniques that the Alter Rebbe brings us. And this is the fourth paragraph, the cause. Ovadia, please read for us the cause being.
The cause being the arrogance of the NACHLAOT, which exalts itself above the light of the holiness of the divine soul, obscuring and darkening the light thereof. Therefore, one must crush it and cast it down to the ground, that is to say, by setting aside appointed times for humbling oneself and considering oneself despicable and contemptible, as it is written, a broken heart, a broken spirit. This is the Sitra Achra, which is the very man himself and intermediate people, in whose heart the vital soul which animates the body is in its native strength. Hence, it is the very man himself. Whereas, with regard to the divine soul within him, it is said, the soul which thou gavest within me is pure. Note the words which thou gavest within me, implying that man himself is not identified with the pure soul except in the case of Zedekim, in whom the contrary is true, namely, that the pure soul, i.e. the divine soul, is the man, while our body is called the flesh of man.
Interesting.
Is this the Musar paragraph?
So this is the first part of the Musar, yes. This is the first part of the Musar. the first part of the Musar is really first it's a mirror to us. Who are we, basically? First of all, it's understanding who we are. And this is the first thing, even when it comes also to the, he speaks here about the pride, the ga'ava of the nefesh habahamit, of the sitrach. And that's the main problem, because when we feel proud or too overconfident, so that's the start of all disasters, because we're not prepared to change, we're not prepared to do things that we don't understand, we don't accept. And perhaps this is what the Alter Rebbe here is first of all teaching us. You should know who you are. And he says that the person is he's the nefesh habahamit. We are, in a certain way, the Alter Rebbe says, we are like animals. We have an animal soul. This is really who we are. And then the Alter Rebbe says, what is the nefesh elokit? The godly soul. The godly soul is something additional that was basically put inside us. But that's something additional, over and above who we really are. After we understand that, it's like telling the people in the army that, first of all, you should know that you are vulnerable. You are vulnerable, you don't have a supreme power over others. It's not something that is guaranteed that you will always win, that you will always be able to react in a good way. No. That's the first step. And perhaps this is the beginning to being able to accept changing a certain method, right? Because again, we spoke about the heaviness. When a person is heavy, so step number one for him to change is to explain to him his limitations, that he's not perfect. Yes?
He says the tzaddik is immune from this.
Oh, yeah.
But what about the Rebbe going to Vienna?
Yes. What do you mean by the Rebbe going to Vienna?
To Freud.
To Freud, the Rebbe Rashab. Right.
He was a tzaddik and he was immune.
Right. So we'll see that. It's a good question. So this is, of course, speaking about Beinonim. This is intermediate people, like each and every one of us over here, that we should know that our essence, our real being, is the nefesh habahamit. The nefesh elokit is an added force to who we are. And therefore there are a lot of consequences that result out of that. That's why we should wake up, because that's not an easy battle, it's not an easy fight. Well, about tzaddikim we'll see in a moment, because there's an example that the Alter Rebbe brings, and we'll be able to answer your question with the example. Yes, if I just...
setting aside appointed times for humbling oneself. Can that be the
Okay, so this is setting aside, and this is the first limit that the Alter Rebbe tells us, which means don't do this on a frequent basis, on a daily basis. Set aside times to do such a thing. And we know that if a person is too heavy on himself, right, so the end result can be worse. That a person is putting himself down. So then we lose it. We've got to get the exact right amount to wake the person up. Right, like unfortunately what happened. Imagine if the Arabs would be able to attack all the way through to Beersheba and to army bases like they planned, or to Dimona, Chas v'Shalom, or also in the north, also in the south, and that can Chas v'Shalom cause such a feeling of depression in the country and the soldiers that they won't feel like they need to fight. You know, you don't want soldiers that they think to fight in the Tzfat and in Tveria and in Nahariya and all the streets of Haifa. It's terrible to think of such a thing.
But the Makkah is the refuah.
Sorry?
But the Makkah is the refuah.
So it's got to be the right amount of the Makkah. Can't be too strong. They used to do, in the old days, they used to do kosot ruach. Basically putting cups, hot cups on the back of a person. They used to, and they used to do also hakazatam, taking blood out, and that was the exact right amount, so the person can recreate blood vessels and recreate blood. It's more energy. And by the way, this is recommended, of course, each and everyone according to his medical situation, to donate blood. It's also good for us, and it also helps So that is to answer your question, Ovadia, about the setting the right time. Not every davening. No, sometimes the Hasidim will speak about it. The Hasidim used to do what is called Tikkun Chatzos. Sometimes they used to say Kriyat Shema Shalom Mitzah Shema before we go to bed. They used to say a longer Shema, and this took place only once a week, Thursday night. Today, perhaps once a month, once every 2 months, or even less, because yes, we are vulnerable. We are very vulnerable. Make sure that it's not too harsh. Yes.
So what about those people who say they feel very moral and say we must give humanitarian aid to our enemies?
It's a good question. A lot of it really is about thinking how to run the war in the long term, because you can do it in the short term, and you can. I think that it's a mistake to give humanitarian aid, but some people, I think, they are more for it because they know that we're there for perhaps a year, perhaps more than a year, and that's what the Rabbi says. We have to daven for our leaders also, not only for the IDF. The IDF, Baruch Hashem, the soldiers are on the right track. The leaders, they need the davenings maybe even more. And yes, the question is how to really deal with this war. It has to do with the whole reaction. It's very interesting, just to finish about this. It says, Kel nekamot Hashem. Hofia. We need the Hofia. Hashem is the one that will really take revenge. And why is this? Because a Jew, from his neshama, he doesn't have the nature of vengeance. At least not as much.
Shine in the shuma.
Shine in the shuma. That's Am Yisrael. You'll take a person on the street and you'll ask him. That's also with the story of Dinah and Yaakov. Yaakov didn't want that, and it was only Shimon and Levi that were, a bit more of the revved up brothers there, that they said
but
Nekama.
Not for humanitarian reason. He was afraid of the consequences.
With the consequences, right. What here, maybe that's also the consequence, how will the world react, etc.
We know how the world will react.
We know, we can see it now.
Certainty.
Yeah, I agree.
But if giving humanitarian aid means we get warships,
then perhaps there is a side to do that. Yeah, that's the question. That's why it's not. It might be worth it, at least for this time. They're not sitting and eating hummus there. That I can assure you. And if it's in the long term, and they'll do a thorough and proper job and get as many Palestinians out of there as possible, and things. So and hopefully we'll be able to.
The Palestinians are the enemy. They are Hamas.
So Bezrat Hashem, they should get them out. And as it's more of a thorough job, and more of a job where we show that we are dealing with this properly, so they'll send them out as much as possible. Bezrat Hashem, we have to daven for that, and that's the maximum that I can do. That's it says about Avram Avinu Ayeka, Hashem asking Avram, where are you? He didn't only ask him, where are you, literally. He knows where Avram Avinu is. But he's asking, where are you? What are you up to? What are you doing? Right? And when he asks, what are you up to? So this is actually a story of the Alter Rebbe also. The Alter Rebbe was in prison, and there was a minister that was very, very intelligent. He knew a lot about the Bible, a lot about the Torah. And he asked the Alter Rebbe this question: why does Hashem ask Avram Ayeka? Hashem doesn't know where Adam Arishan, sorry, not Avram, where Adam Arishan is. So the Alter Rebbe told him, a person of such and such an age, naming the exact age of that minister. It comes a time in life where he gets asked by Hashem, where are you? What did you accomplish? What did you do in your life? And this is also for us today. Where are we? What are we taking? What are we doing in this war? And like Rabbi Goldberg said, there are certain people that are in charge of fighting. And there are us that we take our part, and our part is to sincerely daven for the soldiers and for the leaders. And that's how we can make a change. That's how we can improve the situation. 100%. 100%. That's the only reason why we don't take guns and we don't join the army, because they need us over here as well. You won't believe the reaction of the soldiers. I went also up north to the army base there, and not all the way up north. Actually, I went with my daughter as well. So we gave out Shabbos candles and put on tefillin, and the soldiers just with tears in their eyes. Unbelievable to see. And that is our part in the war. Yes. Sometimes it's davening, preparing sandwiches. Yes, Mark.
There's an article in one of the newspapers this weekend talking about the Ultra Hasidim that historically have never served in the military.
Yes.
And what they're doing right now is they're assigning each yeshiva student the name of a soldier to study and to daven for the duration of the war.
Wow. Wow. That's beautiful. That shows the real unity and also the real way that was in the times of King David. Yes, there were people that sat and that they learned Torah. So each one does what he can in his part. So just to summarize what we learned, because we already it's coming close to 11, and what the Alter Rebbe here is introducing to us is a new idea that we might not have seen in Hasidus, but yes, a bit of Musar as well can direct us to the right way. It's got to be in the right time, and it's got to be the right thoughts. And here, it's about the Beinoni, that the person himself, his main being and his main essence is the Nefesh HaBahamis, is the animal side of things. Unless it's tzaddikim, and this is how the Alter Rebbe ends with an example from Hillel. Hillel used to tell his students that, let's see, we can read it here. This is the last paragraph on the first page. So we're going to read that, and we'll stop there. Compare the statement. Avram, would you like to read for us? This is the last paragraph on chapter 29.
Compare the statement of Hillel the elder to his disciples, who, when going to eat, used to say that he was going to perform an act of kindness to the lowly and poor creature, by which he meant his body, which he regarded as if it were foreign to him. Therefore, he used the expression that he was performing an act of kindness towards it in giving it food, because he himself was nothing else but the divine soul, since it alone contaminated his body and flesh, inasmuch as in the tzaddikim, the evil that was in the vital soul, perverting his blood and flesh, had been transformed into good and absorbed into the very holiness of the divine soul, with an intermediate, however, since the substance and essence of the vitalizing animal soul, which is derived from the Sitra Apa and pervades his blood and flesh, has not been transformed into good, it surely constitutes the man himself.
Thank you. So this is an example that, and also to answer your question, that when it comes to tzaddikim, so their real being is the nefesh halak, is the godly soul. The body and the nefesh habamis is something that was added, that were forced. And by the way, this is why tzaddikim and any person has certain limits, no matter what, even if he's on the highest level. And the limits are that the body has physical needs. He's got to eat, he's got to sleep, etc. And that means that he can't study Torah 24/7. In that case, it's a yerida compared to the state of the soul before the soul entered the body. So we're going to stop over here for today, and Bezrat Hashem to be continued next week on Tuesday at 10 o'clock. Yeshar Koach, thank you very much.